But with all of the additional information that they're collecting, such as the make and the model, the color of the vehicle, and these things, it seems like they should be able to see.
I don't disagree with anything you've said. Applicants
That's
should, Ms. Camp, but they are not legally required to do so.
In towing cases, the fight is rarely just about a car. It is about how far private parking enforcement can go when a minor mistake leads to a major penalty. In Travis County, Judge Sylvia Holmes is hearing a dispute that raises a bigger question many drivers will recognize. When does strict enforcement stop being policy and start feeling predatory?
We are here for a tow hearing this afternoon, so this is cause J3CV 26001348. It's Catherine Camp versus Skyline at Barton Creek. On behalf of the plaintiff, Ms. Camp, you're representing yourself?
yes,
Good
that's true,
afternoon.
Your Honor.
And who do I have on behalf of the defendant, Skyline at Barton Creek?
Anna Gaona.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Ms. Gaona, are you apartment manager, owner, agent?
I'm the towing company.
Oh, you are
I
with the
have a
towing
sign.
company.
Yes, I have a signed agreement to patrol the property.
Okay. What's the name of your company, ma'am?
Parking Compliance Solutions.
All right. Good afternoon to you both. Let me go ahead and swear you both in. If you'll just raise your right hand. Do you understand that by appearing in court and offering me testimony, you're swearing to tell me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under a penalty of perjury? Do you so swear?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. All right. All right, Ms. Camp, tell me about what happened with your vehicle.
So I have a friend that lives at this apartment complex, and I park at this apartment complex very frequently. I noticed that the apartment complex updated the towing service provider, and as such, I adjusted the way that I utilized parking at this complex to abide by the parking requirements. Parking requirements are to utilize an access code that's provided from the apartment complex. In the provider's system, once you input the access code, then you input a series of additional personal information, such as the make, the model, the license plate, the color of the vehicle, and then other pertinent information. And it's at that time that once you execute that screen, that then you get a registration, essentially. You have to park in a visitor's pass with the new parking company. And so on this day, at this time, to my knowledge, that was the case. I parked in a visitor's parking, which I was supposed to. I parked in front of the sign and used the QR code on the sign to fill out the respective fields that it required me to. When I came back from the event and at the closure of my night to return home to my property, the car was no longer there. When I called the tow company, the number that was listed on the sign, they stated that I had inaccurately put my license plate number, and it was because of that one simple clerical error that they were entitled to tow my vehicle at that time.
Is that accurate?
My license plate is HZF 7943, and on the registration at this time, it had HZF 4379. So two numbers were transposed essentially. But with all of the additional information that they're collecting, such as the make and the model, the color of the vehicle, and these things, it seems like they should be able to see
They
that that's.
absolutely should, Ms. Camp, but they are not legally required to do so.
So, but even when they're asking for me to put in that information, at the bottom of the
100%.
form, it states that if that information is not accurate, that it would render the registration unauthorized. And that just to me seems predatory, because if they're not going to utilize this information in the course and conduct of their business, I don't understand why they'd collect it, especially knowing that that's an entry field available for user entry. And it seems to me like maybe it is an additional entry field or an additional obstacle that a user would have to overcome manually, creating maybe potentially a higher occurrence of these user errors.
Ms. Camp, I don't disagree, but again, not illegal. It is a private parking place. The complex can put up any requirements they want. If they wish to use parking compliance, who's got a kind of an unnecessarily difficult, convoluted parking system, you're not wrong in that that's frustrating. It may not be a great customer service. It may not be good for you as a consumer, but it's not illegal. And if you put your license plate in wrong, and that's the reason they towed it, I don't have any authority to give you your money back. Is that what happened?
I mean, that's what they said. That's what they say happened. I have parked at this complex many times before and several times after and not had an issue. Additionally, like I would be curious to see what the I would be curious to understand what the tolerance is for error, knowing that there are individuals who have maybe disabilities or things like this where they're entitled to potentially put in additional errors or things like this. Even when you park with the city, it's the case that they allow for you to create a profile, so that way you don't have to manually enter in your user information every single time, regardless of where you park. But it is the case with this tow company that they don't do that. They require the manual entry. And again, it does seem very predatory in practice to me.
Ms. Camp, I don't disagree. The city, though, is a public service. Private parking is not. I don't disagree with anything you've said. What I have to tell you is that legally, they get to keep they have to tell you. If you put it in wrong and there's no evidence that you put it in right, if you said that you've successfully used it other times, then it's strikingly likely that perhaps, you miskeyed it. And then, yeah, they are 100% using a service. The system, quite likely, that I hear from these cases is that the tow company, like law enforcement, is equipped now with a scanning system, and they just drive through the complex to scan the plates, which is why it's so very important that the plate be accurate. The make and the model, I don't know if they would tell you if you're making your model wrong, but the plate was correct. But if the terms and conditions on the app say it must all be accurate, that's a nitpicky thing, but it's not improper or illegal. Just just not very palatable.
It feels very punitive. I would ask that the tow company maybe splits the cost with me, knowing that this is a simple user error. It's obviously like a clerical error, something that would happen in common day, everyday time.
Ms. Camp, they're not required to do that. I can't order that. They have lawfully towed you because it sounds like the license plate was entered incorrectly, which, again, I don't disagree with your emotional response. Legally, that passes legal muster. I'm sorry, Ms. Camp. All right. Plaintiff, take nothing. Ms. Camp, you have 10 days to appeal. Certainly, you can look into the law some further, but if you take no action after 10 days, judgment is final. All right. I know no one's happy with that. All parties are excused. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Judge Sylvia Holmes ruled that the tow was lawful and made clear that a harsh result does not make a tow illegal. Catherine Camp argued that a simple plate entry mistake should not have cost her the return of her car, but the court found that under the rules of the private parking system, that error was enough. The hearing may have raised real questions about how unforgiving these systems can be, but in the end, Judge Holmes found that the tow passed legal muster. And if you enjoyed watching Judge Holmes handle this one, subscribe and leave a like.